The real killer, the person who planned to frame Mr. Engarde is... Miss Adrian Andrews, I choose you! You are Mr. Cordia's killer! What? Order! Mr. Wright! This is a very grave matter. Do you have any evidence that supports your charge? Any evidence? All of the evidence points to Miss Andrews. Well, how preposterous. You can't stick any of that on me. I can't, can I? Would you care to test me? Then what about this knife? This knife was used to stab the victim after he had already been strangled to death. It was used to throw suspicion onto Mr. Engarde, naturally. A knife covered in the defendant's fingerprints could have only been taken from his room. And the only one who had dinner with him and knew which knife to take was you. Then, what about the button that was found in Matt's hammock? This button was removed from the victim's body after he'd already died. The only people who could have done so were the person who found his body or the killer. However, if Mr. Engarde was the real killer, there is no way he would have put such incriminating evidence in his own hammock. The only person who could have put this button into Mr. Engarde's hammock is the person who went to wake him up from his nap, which is you, yet again, Miss Andrews. I see. But what about the empty guitar case? That is also another piece of evidence that incriminates Miss Andrews. That costume was used to hide the real killer's identity as they fled the crime scene. Now, who could have known that there was just a costume inside the guitar case? It could only have been the one who prepared the costume for the victim. And that person is you, Miss Adrian Andrews. No, But Miss Andrews' fingerprints were nowhere to be found on the guitar case, and it was you who proved that she was not wearing gloves at the time. That's right. That's because she did not intend on leaving any prints. If anyone had found out that she had touched the case, they would have asked her why. So to avoid leaving any prints, she used a towel or something to open it. But the glass of tomato juice is a different story. Miss Andrews purposely left her fingerprints on the glass to show that, yes, indeed, she was the classic dazed discoverer of a body. And to top it all off, there's this photo. A photo of the killer as they exited the scene of the crime. No reasonable person on Earth can believe that this nickel samurai is Mr. Engarde. He would be much too short for his own costume if it was him. Speaking of how tall people are, Miss Andrews, you're also kind of short in stature, are you not? Please, stop. Well, how about it, Miss Andrews? Miss Andrews? I refuse to testify. What was that? There's a law. It says I can't be forced to testify about something if it can incriminate me. Oh. Well, yes. You're absolutely correct, Miss Andrews. The law does provide us with a way to avoid self-incrimination by allowing a witness not to testify if the testimony can damage themselves. What? Pleading to the fifth is not something most people would think to do on the spot. Actually, thinking back to yesterday in Mr. Engarde's room. Adrian Andrews. Yes? Think hard what we just discussed. Understood? Alright. That's it. That's when Francisca planted this idea into her head. She must have told Miss Andrews not to testify if things look bad. You did a good job proving everything up to this point, Phoenix, but there's still one thing you haven't done. Something I haven't done? What's wrong, Wright? Are you finished already? Run out of evidence? What's so humorous, Mr. Edgeworth? I'm sure you realize this as well, Your Honor. But everything the good lawyer here has proven up to this point is meaningless. What? Everything you have proven is circumstantial. Circumstantial? Yes, circumstantial. You have yet to provide a single piece of definite proof. Proof that Miss Andrews did in fact harbor a wish to murder Mr. Cordia. Miss Andrews, did you want to kill Mr. Cordia? I believe this may lead me to incriminating myself, so I will abstain from answering. But, Miss Andrews, if you do that, it would be the same as admitting your guilt, don't you think? Maybe so, or maybe not. There's no way to prove it either way. Besides, you don't even know what crime I would be guilty of due to my silence. No, she's taking that different, defiant attitude again. But Mia, what do we do? Somehow, you've landed in the worst possible situation. Oh, you don't say! I think we've reached a certain conclusion at this point in time. Miss Adrian Andrews has refused to testify, and the defense's theory that she is the actual murderer has not been fully substantiated with solid, definite proof. But that's not true! In this situation, there's only one thing this court can do, and that is to declare a recess. Recess? I request that both the prosecution and defense look further into this matter. Tomorrow's trial? What? There can't be a tomorrow! You don't have a tomorrow! Please wait, Your Honor. That's not necessary. The trial? Please continue the trial. What are you sweating for? Your client is getting one more day to live, isn't he? That's not it. This isn't about that. Edgeworth, I know you know who the real killer is. Please, let the trial continue. If I don't get the verdict, then my, But it's impossible to continue as long as the witness refused to testify. Now then, this court is... Edgeworth! It is not impossible for this trial to continue. Huh? Mr. Edgeworth, what are you? It's true Miss Andrews holds the right against self-incrimination. However, if the topic of conversation were something unrelated to whatever she may be guilty of, then she has no right to withhold testimony. Yes, that's very true, but... Actually, there's one little thing I'm quite curious about. Miss Andrews? When you found the victim's dead body, you poured yourself a glass of juice. Yes, and? I can't help but think how unnatural that is. Usually when one finds a body, they are shaken up, not stirring a glass of juice. So my actions were unusual, but I've already... Before you speak, I want to state that if you have a reason behind your actions, I would like you to testify to that effect. Testify? Your Honor, I would like to request that the witness testify again as to what happened when she first discovered the victim's body. Whatever we find out in this testimony should no way implicate the witness. Edgeworth, you clever bastard. I don't know what it is about Edgeworth today, but I can't get a good read off him. Is he a friend or foe? I just don't know. Ha, you rhymed. The court acknowledges the prosecution's request. Miss Andrews, if you please. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. This trial is kind of dragging on. Glass of juice. I didn't really pour it for myself. I was surprised when I walked into the room and saw it in that messy state. And Juan, he was sitting, slumped over, tired looking in the corner. When I saw him sitting like that, I thought he was dead. The thought he was dead didn't cross my mind. To be honest, I thought he had just fainted or something, so I went to pour him some juice. When I realized that he was dead, that's when I knocked the flower vase over. So you poured that glass of juice for the victim. Why didn't you say so in your earlier testimony? I didn't think I needed to include something so trivial. Phoenix, please be careful here. If you can't find anything wrong with this testimony, then there's nothing left. I know. Edgeworth, what the heck is going on in that brain of yours? Now then, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination. I'm just gonna press until we get to the point I want to get to. But there wasn't anyone else in the room, right? Of course not. Then who did you pour it for? Mr. Wright, there isn't a rhyme and reason for everything. Can you wait a little longer for it to be revealed to you? In other words, Wright, be quiet and listen. Precisely. I couldn't have said it better myself. I really don't think these would be the noises people would be making when they're... Actually, never mind. No, I don't think they'd be making these noises. So it was a mess? Are you sure it wasn't messy because of your fight with Mr. Cordia? I understand your frustrations at not being able to prove your theory. However, before you go accusing people of crimes, go find yourself some evidence. And then, what did you see next, witness? Slumped over? Yes, he was just sitting there with his head tilted forward, eyes closed. He really looked like he was sleeping. Is it just me, or did that right there sound a little odd? Which brings me to my next point. Pulling my keyboard over so I can save state. Because I need to keep up on my save state so I don't have to do this stuff over again on accident. Then what did cross your mind? I thought maybe he had smashed everything up in anger because he lost the Grand Prix. And then it felt tired after his rampage, so decided to take a nap. I wouldn't sleep on a chair like that. I call blasphemy. You thought he was just napping? I passed it. Where's the crime scene photo? Objection! Yep, there it is. So you honestly didn't think he was dead when you found him? Nope, not at all. Even though this is what you saw when you discovered the body. What is the meaning of this? Isn't it obvious, Your Honor? There is a knife sticking straight out of Mr. Cordia's chest. Anyone who saw this scene would have to immediately thought that here was a dead man. Well, you see, I doubt a single person in the world would mistake this for someone who fainted, and then so nonchalantly go pour something to drink. Your point is, Miss Andrews, your testimony just now was all a giant lie. And your lie has proven one thing very clearly, that you are the real killer. No, I'm not gonna scream that. If I was home alone, I would scream it. No, seriously, It looks like the defense has somehow brought the ugly truth to light. And the defendant, Mr. Madangarde, is not guilty after all. But that's impossible. You're wrong. Miss Andrews, try to have some composure. It wasn't me. It wasn't me, I tell you. It was Matt. I swear it. He's the one who killed Juan. But you were the one who refused to testify, and your reason for not doing so is that you might end up incriminating yourself. That's because... Miss Andrews, I will give you one last chance. What exactly are you hiding that may incriminate you? I refuse to testify. There's no need for this court to continue any farther. Mr. Madangarde's innocence has been clearly demonstrated. Is it over? Have we found the truth at last? What's wrong, Phoenix? Usually the real killer confesses his or her guilt. And now that I think about it, this is the first time someone hasn't. Now then, I would like to hand down my verdict for Mr. Madangarde. Should have seen that coming. Your Honor, the prosecution feels that it would be premature to pass down a verdict at this time. What? The reason is quite simple. Oh, and then he goes with that grin. This witness has yet to speak the absolute real truth. The absolute real truth? What are you? Witness, don't you understand yet? Huh? I don't know who planted this silly idea in your head, but as long as you protect yourself through your silence, Madangarde will go free, and in his place, you will become the guilty party. That's a lie. I don't believe you. What? I was told if I spoke, then it would be all over, and Matt would never be declared guilty. What in the world is she talking about? Has she lost it? I can't speak about it. I'm too scared. It's Francisca von Karma. Huh? Don't you remember, Phoenix? Miss Andrews lives by gripping tightly onto the words of others, because she doesn't have the strength to believe in herself. Then, right now, Miss Andrews is... Yesterday, she was tossed a lifesaver by Miss von Karma. Don't say a word, no matter what happens. If you do, Madangarde will be acquitted. Miss Andrews undoubtedly believes those words right now and is clinging on to them. Then what should we do? This is the first time I've ever come across anything like this. But Miss Andrews has to be the killer, right? All we have to do now is get our not guilty. That's my only priority. It wasn't me. I'm begging you. Please, believe me. I didn't kill Juan. Help. Please. Someone help me. Mr. Wright? Yes, Your Honor? The court can't continue on like this. Therefore, I'd like to hear what you intend to do. What I intend to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? Right. I suggest you think very carefully about this. Think about what this witness did and what she did not do. And think about who was the real mastermind behind this crime. Who's the real mastermind? Isn't that obvious? There's no one else it could be except the one crying right over there, right? Come now, what will you do? What kind of man are you, Mr. Phoenix Wright? We are going to force her to testify. I have to win a complete acquittal today. There's no way around that. But I can't bring myself to do it like this, not when she's making a face like that. Miss Andrews, I would like to know what you are really hiding. But Mr. Wright, are you sure you know what you're doing? Sure, Mr. Unguided would get an acquittal, but in its place, you would be found guilty. Is this how you really want the trial to end? But be quiet. How dare you? You're trying to trick me. That's enough. I commend you for trying, Mr. Edgeworth. However, it's clear that the defense's theory is the truth. You're wrong. What now? Such a shame. I had hoped things wouldn't have come to this. However, what is it, Mr. Edgeworth? Miss Andrews, since you absolutely refuse to testify, it falls on my shoulders to disclose this to the court. Stop. Mr. Edgeworth? This witness, how should I put this? She has an illness. Whoa, Edgeworth! And because of this illness, she has tried to commit suicide in the past. What are you doing? Stop, please stop. No matter how much you want to hide it, it's no use. I have the evidence right here. But that's the second part of the suicide report. The attempted suicide report. What will you do now, witness? You know what I'm about to do, don't you? I will now reveal to the court the true nature of the pitiful woman known as Adrian Andrews. Whoa, Edgeworth, what are you doing? Please stop, I beg you. If people find out, I'll... You're going to say you would choose death. That is of no concern to me. Edgeworth, how could you be so cold? However, before you die, I will pull the truth from your breathing lips, no matter what I have to do. So, will you tell the court yourself, or shall I? Either is fine with me. I'll talk, but please, help me.